Well, I can't answer the question of why the Israelis are so afraid of me. Why is it that the Zionists in the United States are so afraid of me? I cannot answer that question, but I can tell you that I will continue to do the work that I do on behalf of human rights.
I warned the world and anyone who would listen that the United States had been taken over by a cabal only interested in its own agenda, and that agenda did not include we the people.
More news outlets, and we have less information. They sit over there, and there's a whole, I've been at that hotel where they are, and there's a bunch of them there. And yet they do nothing except accept the Pentagon's talking points for the day and then regurgitate that to all of us. And any one of us who thinks that we are informed because we listen to CNN or Fox or CBS or NBC or ABC, I'm telling you that we are not informed. We are misinformed. We are the victims of disinformation.
23 years ago, I warned we the people that the cabal was acting like a criminal syndicate and was taking over administration of every aspect of our government.
Mr. Secretary, I watched President Bush deliver a moving speech at the United Nations in September 2003, in which he mentioned the crisis of the sex trade. The president called for the punishment of those involved in this horrible business. But at the very moment of that speech, DynCorp was exposed for having been involved in the buying and selling of young women and children. While all of this was going on, DynCorp kept the Pentagon contract to administer the smallpox and anthrax vaccines and is now working on a plague vaccine through the Joint Vaccine Acquisition Program. Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to reward companies that traffic in women and little girls? That's my first question. My second question, Mr. Secretary.
23 years ago, I warned that criminal elements within our own government would attack we the people, while both the Democratic and Republican parties would assist them in covering it up.
We remember the Black Panther Party, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Kwame Ture. We remember George Jackson, Soledad, and Attica. We remember the American Indian movement, the Puerto Rican independentistas, the Chicano movement, and we remember the FBI.
I didn't stop the things that were important to me, and I became a target again, and I lost in 2006. The sad fact is that the pro-Israel lobby is able to amass very quickly large sums of money and make winners out of candidates and make losers out of incumbents. And that's what happened to me. I was outspent by my opponent.
21 years ago, I warned that the one party of the U.S. no longer represented we the people and should be considered the war party.
According to the Comptroller General of the United States, there are serious financial management problems at the Pentagon, to which Mr. Cooper alluded. Fiscal year 1999, 2.3 trillion missing. Fiscal year 2000, 1.1 trillion missing. And DOD is the number one reason why the government can't balance its checkbook. The Pentagon has claimed year after year that the reason it can't account for the money is because its computers don't communicate with each other.
17 years ago, I sounded the alarm that electronic voting machines.
We know about Area A in Chicago, and we've heard the San Francisco 8 recount for us their experiences of torture at the hands of law enforcement. We've heard them tell how 30 years later, the very same people who tortured them showed up on their doorsteps to rearrest them for crimes they didn't commit.
Understanding that silence is complicity, I would not be silent in the face of the huge crimes being committed by our country. And at the same time, I would live my life as independent of their criminality as possible. I went inside myself to understand why I had acted in the way that I had, that basically destroyed what some would call a promising political career.
The reality is not what immediately meets the eye. So your idea of bottom up. So we've got a situation where we've got true believers at the bottom. I was a true believer at the bottom. And then I got elected. So I had an opportunity to still be a true believer, but not necessarily at the bottom, maybe in the middle.
Why had I destroyed myself while trying to stop my country from destroying others? What I learned about myself is I have values. I try to live every day by my values, and that a career that puts you in collision with your values is not a career worth having. What I learned is earth dignity is important to me. Human dignity is important to me, but we will have neither without peace.
Stated, the Green Party is not an alternative party. The Green Party is the imperative party. This country does not have an opposition party any longer, if it ever did. And so now what we are sure of is that the American people do not feel confident that the two corporate parties that are being touted so well by the corporate media actually reflect what they want for their country. That's why 85% of people when polled said that they know that this country is on the wrong track. What we need is a different set of values making public policy in this country, and I believe that the values of the Green Party are reflecting the majority of the people in this country.
What are some examples of what you attempted to pursue?
And that was extremely problematic, because if you wanted to get to the truth, the bottom line of 2000 was that free and fair and square. It was not that. And that one of the computers, well, this is one of the little tidbits of information that very few people have, and that is that one of the computers was started out not at a zero tabulation, but at minus 16,000.
I learned that peace is impossible without justice. No justice, no peace. Well, we can't even think about building lasting justice on a foundation of lies.
So when General Taguba verifies that torture, rape, and murder were used by U.S. servicemen and women, we really aren't surprised. When we see Dick Cheney say that torture worked, we in this audience aren't surprised. When we hear that Democratic Attorney General Jerry Brown, who allowed the San Francisco 8th prosecution to move forward, is rumored to want to be governor of California and expects to win on our votes, we shouldn't be surprised. Or even the Gavin Newsom, current mayor of San Francisco, who is aiding and abetting the ethnic cleansing of that last remaining black neighborhood in that city, wants to be governor and expects black, brown, and progressive white voters to elect him. We really shouldn't be surprised.
We have to make sure that we have people who are willing to put themselves on the front line and run for office so that the government is not them. The government is rightly us, and it is reflective of our values and our priorities. And the last thing I'll say is this: it is absolutely unconscionable that we would spend $700 billion to the Pentagon, the same Pentagon that admits that it lost $2.3 trillion, that it spent $20 billion
so that it could balance its books to make the computers talk to each other. And after having spent $20 billion, the computers still don't talk to each other. And the United States government can't balance its books because the Pentagon refuses to initiate accounting procedures that allow us to know what happens to the money that's appropriated to it by the Congress.
Therefore, truth is the basis of the kind of U.S. and world I want to see.
There's been another interesting development with respect to the Georgia Green Party that we just found out, and I am in the process of contacting friends at the ACLU to assist with this, but the 21st century FBI has decided that the Georgia Green Party is a terrorist organization. Now, that then means...
Green Party, but you all stand for peace. Isn't that all in your document, peace and green living? And
well, maybe what it means is that because we stand for peace, those who don't want peace can terrorize us, because that's exactly what I believe, that you have to have certain designation in order to kick in other things that could be of the surveillance type. And without the designation, then the surveillance is illegal, even within this realm of Patriot Act that we live in today.
Truth, justice, peace, dignity are the values I want to be known for today, tomorrow, and even when I'm gone from this earth. A journalist whose good deeds for truth that the criminal cabal is trying to erase is Julian Assange, whom I paraphrase here. If wars can be started with lies, then peace can be started with truth.
So this is a very, very dangerous development, because the Green Party is a political party. And if there is an effort to deny people in the United States the opportunity to have their fullest political expression, peaceful political expression, with these designations, and then to do the kinds of activities that flow from these designations, that is a serious infringement on the rights of Americans, not only for freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom of political behavior.
but it also
I do believe that the moment we expose all of the lies that this criminal cabal has told the world, we, the people, will be able to live in peace and harmony with the rest of the world, doing harm to no one, harnessing our human power for the good of humankind.
When I got to Washington, I saw that public policy is really made in a room at a table. There were real seats at the table. Well, imagine what has happened to public policy making now. There is a real room with a window and a door, and there's 2 seats at the table. The window is for us to look through, while our representatives make policy for us, so we can see what they're doing. At the table, 1 seat is for the Democrats, 1 seat is for the Republicans. Now, we don't know who did it, but one of them put a lock on the door and slipped a key to the corporate lobbyists, who can come and go at will and whisper what they want.
People who are willing to do the hard work of oversight of the Department of Homeland Security, oversight of the Pentagon, oversight of every tax dollar that we give to the federal government. Then the last thing I'll say is this. I am now in New York City. People in New York City deserve to know what happened on September 11th. We deserve a real investigation, because we have not had a real investigation. And how can we be sure that it won't happen again if we don't know how, after spending trillions of dollars in a military and an intelligence infrastructure, it fails 4 times on one day? That is my dream for today and tomorrow. I'm proud to walk with you in truth for justice, peace, and dignity. Thank you so much for inviting me to this rally.